79.8% of FHA borrowers were actually eligible for one or more programs, and usually multiple programs. That's a huge gap. If 15% of people are getting it and 80% are eligible, what's happening to the other people? What simpler call to action and more powerful message could you have other than to be able to put out there, down payment help is available, see if you're eligible?
What's going on, world? And in the world of real estate, we have people, if you've been around as long as I have, that you have known for well over a decade. And guess what? Me and Rob Crane have known each other for well over a decade. I remember when your company launched and we were meeting at different conferences and expos. I've always believed in down payment resource because the value it brings to the real estate transaction. But I'm going to imagine that you and your tools have actually grown in popularity. I would like to believe that, especially in the world where a buyer agent needs to get a signed buyer representation agreement with an offer of compensation when we start thinking about compensation in the world of real estate. So, Rob, can you share with everybody what it is that you do at Down Payment Resource?
Happy to, Marky, and thank you for having me. It's great to be with you. I've been an admirer of you ever since we met, actually before we met. So when we met,
thank you.
That was a big deal. So always great to connect with you and the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. The simplest, shortest way I could say it is we help our business partners we help our business partners connect their buyers with down payment help. And our business partners are multiple listing services, big search portals. So we're on 3 of the 4 largest search portals: Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin. And we work with mortgage lenders of all types and sizes. We work with nonprofits. And again, the whole idea of, still today, so many people, especially first-time home buyers, don't even know there's such a thing as down payment help. And so that's our mission is connect our business partners, or help our business partners connect home buyers with the down payment help they need. But our mission is that we will live to see a time when anybody who aspires to home ownership, and even more importantly, people who don't think home ownership is possible, we want all of those people to know there's such a thing as down payment help and how to find it, and then help our business partners, realtors, and lenders connect those people and get them the money.
So you have one of the largest, most comprehensive databases of down payment resources and tools. What does that number look like?
Yeah, funny you should ask, because it was just this week we launched our third quarter Homeownership Program Index. We call it the HPI for short, Homeownership Program Index. So every quarter for years now, we've taken a snapshot of our database and said, what's in there? What are the trends? Are there more programs or fewer programs? What percentage of the programs are currently active and funded? And so there's some numbers fresh on my mind. The bad news is there's so many numbers that I'm going to have to scroll across the screen and make sure I'm quoting the right number for the right talking point. But so first at the top level, 2,444 programs when we took this recent snapshot are in our database, and about 75% of those are some type of down payment and closing cost help. So that means they could be grants, they could be repayable, soft second mortgages, which is like, what most DPAs, down payment assistance programs are. So the majority is help with the down payment. But then the others, you have the first mortgage products, the affordable first mortgage products through state housing finance agencies. Every state has at least one housing finance agency at the state level. Some states have more than one. Then you have municipalities. So these 2,400 programs represent almost 1,400 different program administrators. And that's a lot. That's a lot to keep up with. In this report, this most recent report, we found that of the almost 1,400 providers, 949 of them are municipalities. So, almost every local municipality offers programs. Sometimes they're serving as, or a lot of the time they're serving as a participating jurisdiction to distribute HUD funds. So that would be home funds. That's money funded by the federal government, home funds, and also CDBG, Community Development Block Grant programs. They come from the federal government, but they're distributed at the state or municipality level. So, so there's just a lot to keep up with, and really the whole reason we started this back in 2008 was I was a mortgage lender at the time. I was 15 years as a realtor, 10 of those years as a broker, managing broker, and then 20 years as a mortgage banker. So there you go. You said you've been around a long time. I have to laugh when you say that because I'm ancient. But the whole point is that for years I said I knew about these programs and working in a local market, a metro area, it still was hard to keep up with because there could be dozens of programs. Who knows how many jurisdictions, how many municipalities have programs as well as the state. And I just for years said there's got to be a better way. Somebody needs to clean this up. And trust me, I had no desire or interest or never thought that we would go out and actually do this. But be careful what you wish for. If you say something enough times, you may end up being the one to have to go do it. And I say that in jest because it's just been these last 16 years have just been such an amazing experience. And I dread the thought that I could have passed up on it just because it seemed impossible or whatever. But life is funny. It has a way of leading you to things. And all of a sudden, something you never thought of, you're doing it. And you're not only doing it, but you're realizing I'm doing what I was meant to do. And I didn't even know what I was meant to do. So go figure.
Wow. So, White, I'm just thinking of all the people you are a resource to, right? The licensee, the MLS, the search portal, being the buyers, right? Heck, even sellers could reposition the marketing of their house, right? That this property has this many different funds that are available for your potential buyer if they qualify. So mortgage brokers and then also nonprofit. But before we start recording today, you talked about a study from the Urban Institute. Can you tell us what that study found in regards to people who use it versus how many people it's available to?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked me. So we did a study, and we've done this in the past, but the most recent one we did was a year ago. We worked with the Urban Institute, as you said, and we were asking ourselves the same question that a lot of people ask us is, well, how many people are actually eligible for down payment help? Because, there's a lot of misperceptions about, who is this money for? Who qualifies for this money? Lots of misperceptions. So we started figuring out, okay, well, we've got this database with all of these programs and more importantly, all the rules, the eligibility rules, the funding status, all that kind of stuff. So we have this. So we said, well, what other data sets can we overlay with our data and start answering some of these questions? And one of the questions is how many people are eligible? And then we said, well, wouldn't it be really cool to compare how many people are eligible for DPA, but how many people actually get it? What's the gap? So we were able to work with HMDA data, looking at only purchase owner-occupied transactions, because those are the only ones where you could use down payment assistance. And we narrowed it down to the 10 largest metropolitan areas in the country. And then we started comparing closed loans. So these are people who bought homes in 2022. And we wanted to know first, how many of those people were actually eligible for programs? And the numbers were pretty staggering. If you took all of and we could break it down by first mortgage type. because, when you get DPA, you're still getting a mortgage. You're still getting a first mortgage. You're just layering that down payment help on top of the mortgage. So it's an FHA or a VA or USDA or conventional. So we had this report segmented by first mortgage types. But if you combine all those different first mortgage types, Fannie, Freddie, the others, um, it was like 43, I think it was about 43% on average across those 10 metro areas. 43% of all borrowers were eligible. Well, we don't have real good numbers on conventional, how many people getting a conventional loan use DPA, but it's 10% would be good. That's as good a number as we can come up with. With FHA, FHA actually puts out a report every year to Congress, and in that report, if you look for it, they tell you how many FHA borrowers got down payment assistance with their FHA first mortgage. And the number is, a tad under 15%. So round it up to 15, and 15% of FHA borrowers actually get down payment help. We found when you look at FHA first mortgages in our research, 79.8% of FHA borrowers were actually eligible for one or more programs, and usually multiple programs. So that's a huge gap. If 15% of people are getting it and 80% are eligible, what's happening to the other people? And think about this, what's really hard and heartbreaking to think about is how many people didn't even go through the loan application process because somebody didn't tell them, hey, you might be eligible for down payment help. They were just told, hey, you need to save up some more money for a down payment. Call me in 6 months. Call me in 12 months. Maybe they worked with a counseling agency. Maybe they worked with a realtor who got them into a kind of a nurturing program to sort of get them mortgage ready. But so many people are turned away just because of not being offered the opportunity. So that's kind of our mission. That's what we're targeting. That's what we're aiming to do is, so that everybody knows there's such a thing as down payment help and how to get it.
So a couple of things. I had a previous call all about the employer assisted housing program where we go into companies and we help work with individual companies to set up forgivable grants on behalf of the employer to the employee. And as I was talking about that, I decided to come and talk about Skylar, right? And one, because I'm a proud mother, but because he's negotiated over $150,000 this year alone in down payment assistance and closing cost credits for his buyers. So he went and he got some of his closing statements. And this is what these buyers had to bring to closing because they received down payment assistance. $316.28, $153.70, $262.97, $121.82, $0, $150. And then on two of these, one person received $243.66 back. Another person received $777.86 back. Now, keep in mind this year, Skylar is number one in units sold out of all of our real estate agents because he specializes in down payment assistance. And what I'm hearing you say, Rob, is that only 15%, because we're in a metropolitan area, right? I'm sure Chicago probably is included in that MSA, right?
Yeah.
So only 15% of buyers got it, where 80% of buyers qualify. That means that he can retain a number one position at a top franchise if he continues to do the work of leveraging down payment resources.
Yes, absolutely. And I was so impressed when you introduced me to Skylar, and impressed, and kudos to him for doing the work, rolling up his sleeves, doing the work to educate people. And if you tell them about it, they will engage because, again, most people don't know about it. And what simpler call to action or simple to understand message and more powerful message could you have other than to be able to put out there, down payment help is available, see if you're eligible. Anybody can understand that. And if you're thinking about buying a home and you know your biggest struggle is coming up with a down payment, and somebody says they might be able to help you with a down payment, are you gonna give your name and phone number and ask them to call you? And Skylar's living proof of what that can do for you.
So what I want to point out, sometimes when we look at FHA mortgages, there's a negative cloud that comes over it. Oftentimes people are going to segment or think of down payment as a race issue. So let me give you this. This was a message I received. There's a young gentleman. He has an app, okay, and it covers more than just potential down payment resources. And so his examples were just of African Americans. And this is the conversation he sent me. He says, "Thank you for the changes you suggested I make to my pitch after Chicago to show that my software isn't just for us." And he meant Black people. He said, "I did so, and I won $125,000 last Friday in Oregon. These tools are for everybody." And you mentioned something about USDA. It's whether you live in one of the big cities or even if you were to couple this and you live in rural America, right? That there's so many people who need this money. And one thing you talked about was the CBDG.
CDBG, Community Development Block Grants.
Right. This money is set aside already, and we're not using
I know isn't it crazy? It just doesn't. Like I said, we've been doing this for 16 years, and I still am gobsmacked that when you think about that, it's just crazy and unnecessary.
All I heard was opportunity. So I'm in a very unique office, right? We have 4 offices across the city of Chicago. We decided to expand to the South Side once I came in, and we have Zeke Morris, past state president, past liaison for the National Association of Realtors. But this is what I like to point out. We got 253 agents, 4 different offices. If we take a look right now at our people year to date on units sold, our number 1, number 2, number 4, and number 6 all specialize in down payment assistance. Now, what I'm hearing you say, in this office, we got the number 1, 2, 4, and 6, and it's still that same 15%. It's still substantially more opportunities. The number 4 actually ran for mayor of the city of Chicago, okay? So what I'm hearing is there's an abundance of opportunity, not just in our brokerage, but in any brokerages, especially across the 10 MSAs, which you can figure out. I'm pretty sure New York is in there. Probably LA is in there. Don't know if Atlanta, maybe a Houston, Dallas, right, are all in there, right?
Everyone you've named so far is in there.
Is in there. There's nothing but opportunity on this product. And
you have to step around it to get past it, right? I mean, to get to your front door of your office, you got to walk around all this opportunity.
So people are walking around the opportunity to be the solution. That's sad. That's so sad. Based on something negative, something just like FHA, right? Based on something negative. And here's what's a little interesting. And I've never said it like this before. The house that I live in, our last comp on my block, 1 block away from me, is $1,050,000. But I bought this house using a FHA 203K mortgage product that in 12 months allowed me to create $190,000 in sweat equity. We came back 12 months after we purchased this house and did a rate and term refinance at a 62% loan to value. I'm going to take my next door neighbor. My next door neighbor purchased a 2-flat, converted it to a single family house. Now in my marketplace, single family homes sell for substantially more than multifamily properties.
Yep.
So he acquired the most equity in the least amount of time because he also did a 203K purchase rehab loan. Purchase rehab loans, a 203K, streamlined full K, are both FHA products, right? Now,
Yep.
all grants might not be eligible to use for purchase rehab, but there was a negativity around using FHA products when we owe less than $200,000 and my last comp is $1,050,000. That's not just my comp, it's my next door neighbor's comp too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So we're talking about the ability to leverage one, to erase the negativity and leverage these tools to aid your buyers in creating equity. But more importantly, if you're a listing agent, doing the same research and stating what is eligible to a buyer. Now, I'm going to tell you this, Rob. I'm thinking about this too, right? So let's say you have a brand new listing, and in today's market, you aren't offering broker to broker compensation. Never said it like this, but I'm going to say it like this today. So I'm a listing agent. My seller is not offering broker to broker compensation. I want to be clear. That does not mean that they aren't offering it. They aren't publicly offering it. But I want to make sure that my seller nets as most money as humanly possible. Doing my due diligence, I need to come and find all the different grant programs that any potential buyer can layer, that I'm telling them about, that they can use if they qualify, to reduce the likelihood that my seller needs to offer any broker to broker, or better yet, seller to buyer compensation.
How many people get asked to pay closing? How many sellers get asked to pay closing costs and points?
Duh. I have, however many programs that one could layer right here over this house that the buyer can use, provided that they qualify, which now reduces the likelihood that a seller would offer broker to broker compensation, seller to buyer compensation, closing cost credits, right? Because there's money that's already set aside for the buyer to use to be able to buy said house.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and think about, and I apologize because you have to cut me off because I'm going to, I love to talk about this stuff and I get passionate about it, and then I'm preaching to the choirs too. So, but yeah, you just think about people who maybe they do have a 3.5% down payment to go FHA, or maybe they're a veteran and they go VA, or a low down payment for even a 3% for Fannie Freddie, Home Possible, Home Ready, whatever. If somebody there are a lot of people who have enough money to squeak in, and then I remember this so well from my days of going to closings as a real estate agent, a real estate broker, as a mortgage loan officer, and especially with first time home buyers. The closings wrapping up, everybody's shaking hands, everybody's happy, the buyers are thrilled, they're ecstatic, but somebody always says, half joking and half serious, well, I guess we'll be eating tuna out of a can for the next 6 months because we brought all of our cash to the table. Well, why? If you're eligible, why not save some of your money and have that rainy day fund? Because we all know, all of us that are homeowners, we know stuff comes up. And
yes, it does.
So anyway, it's not just for people who have zero down payment. It's for people who have savings. Now, a lot of the programs have what they call a maximum assets test. So, if somebody has $1 million in the bank, even if they qualify for the program, they probably won't get the program because do they really need it if they have $1 million? That's sort of against the spirit of it. But there are a lot of people, and I would say the majority of people do have some liquidity. But again, why strap yourself? Why put yourself into a risky position as a new homeowner if you can if you're eligible for this money, and we've already determined a lot of people are. One other side note too, when you're talking about properties, we always sort of concentrate on what are the rules, the eligibility rules for these programs. How does the buyer qualify? They have a maximum household income, maximum sales price, certain there's not a lot of things, but there's some key things that determine that eligibility. But, think about it. The house has to be eligible because every one of these programs has some sort of specific boundary for the program. So you got to know precisely where the house sits to see what programs might be available. Same thing, usually a maximum sales price, but not all of the programs have a cap on the sales price, and property types. So we figured out early on that, wait a minute, what if we also not just help build a tool that helps match people with the programs, but that also qualifies the property for the programs? And that's why we started, it was 2008, the finance world was blowing up, foreclosure crisis. And here we were bringing a new product to the market, and our primary market lenders, they had other problems. And we always knew we wanted to go to the real estate point of sale. So every startup does this. You pivot, right? You hit a brick wall and say, okay, how do we go around this? Oh, well, let's go to MLSs and let's flag listings. Let's process the listing data, determine, is it eligible for any programs? And if so, exactly what programs would be available to a buyer of that home? And then all you have to figure out is what programs is the buyer eligible for. So across our MLS, and we don't by any means have every MLS in the country, but we have a broad spectrum of size of MLSs, regions, locations, whatever. On average, 80% of their active residential listing inventory on average is eligible for one or more programs. That's a lot of properties. I mean, that's, people, when we show that to a MLS board of directors, when we're doing a demo and a presentation, they're shocked. And the other thing they're shocked about too is we're able to tell them, not only what percentage of your active inventory is eligible and therefore would be flagged and could be used in marketing for those properties, but how much money, how many programs, and what's the range of benefits? What are the range of types of programs? And again, they're blown away when you come in and you say, oh, in your market, you know what? There's 16 different programs. They come from 5 different agencies, state housing finance agency, local housing finance agency, municipality, nonprofit, and these MLS boards, they're made up. They include practitioners in the market, and some of those practitioners will like, wow, I knew about 2 programs. I thought, I knew these 2 programs in my market, and you're telling me there's 15 or 20 or 12 or whatever the number is. It's just mind blowing.
It is. And I've just come up with an entirely new marketing concept because I think now that you're stating that 85% of properties qualify for at least one program and you're working with the MLSs to flag it, to me, there should be a new direct mail marketing campaign going out to sellers because as real estate agents, we can actually help reduce their costs to be able to sell if they were going to list with us, leveraging the down payment assistance to offset anything that the potential buyer would ask for.
Yes, absolutely. And so one of the things that I apologize, I'm not trying to pitch our product to your audience, but just there's a tool specifically, one of the tools in the MLS suite of tools it's just called a pricing widget. And if you're getting ready to go out on a listing call and you want to win that listing and you want to put your best foot forward and show all your marketing prowess and your tools and everything, this is one of the things you can say is, before you go on that appointment, I'm going to put in that property address, street number, address, the zip code. I'm going to put in what I think then I'm going to recommend the list price. I'm put in those two things, and it's going to tell me what programs are available for a buyer of that home. So now when I do my listing presentation, I'm going to show the sellers, like, here's another way we're going to market your home.
Well, Rob, one, I do want you to pitch your product because I want people to come over and use down payment resources, right? So I want them to go to downpaymentresource.com. But wait a minute. I want to come back. Now, are you, so I'm with, where am I? I'm in Chicago. Let me get my MLS correctly.
MRED, isn't it?
MRED. So in MRED, do I have the pricing widget?
Unfortunately, MRED is not a partner right now. We want them to be. We want them to be. We had great engagement when we were integrated into MRED, so I think we'll get back one day. We'll get back in there one day.
Well, look, I know how to talk to a few people who serve on that board, because what I'm thinking about, right? We're in the state of Illinois. I'm thinking about our licensing rules and regulations. I'm thinking about how hard it has been for real estate agents to get a signed buyer representation agreement with an offer of compensation. The pricing widget definitely will allow us to, let me say this today, right? Post August, Saturday, August the 17th, right? How much more beneficial your tool is to every licensed real estate professional, especially those who can get the pricing widget, because it changes the entire conversation.
It's a game changer. A game changer.
It is.
Our first MLS customer was North Star MLS in the Twin Cities. John Mosey was the CEO really until just a couple of years ago when he retired. Thank God for John, because that's how we got our first MLS. And John's an influential, respected guy. So when people saw him do it, that helped us a lot. But he got it. I was introduced to him, told him what we were doing. We had just decided we were going to create this suite of tools for MLSs. And I explained it to John, probably in a really awkward, complicated way, but he got it. And he said, this will start conversations that otherwise would not have taken place. And it's going to help sell some extra homes. It's going to help people get into homes. And it's going to put more commission dollars in my members' pockets. It's
excellent.
I mean,
that's what it's about, making it easier.
Yeah.
So you know what, Rob? One, you got me excited. So now I know I need to go have some other conversation. And I'm looking forward to our follow-up conversation. For everyone who has not done so by now, you should be over at downpaymentresource.com, taking a look at how you can leverage this tool in your local marketplace. Check inside of your MLS to see if they already have a relationship where you would see the pricing widget, because this is an entirely new, well, it's not entirely new, but it can be new for you, a concept to infuse additional funds into the real estate transaction to be able to save your seller money. Also, when I'm thinking about living here in Cook County, because we've seen an increase in real estate taxes and we pay our taxes 1 year in arrears, I want to now know what that is in Cook County, because I might have a seller who needs to sell because the taxes increased. They're going to have a larger tax proration. So these funds will empower them or enable them to be able to sell a house where they might not have that additional money. So kind of bridging that gap contingent upon what your tax situation is on real estate. So go over to downpaymentresource.com. Rob, thank you for being a fabulous guest and talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is down payment resources.
Well, thank you again, Marky. It's so great to be with you. And I so much appreciate the opportunity to share this with you and with your audience. So thank you.
Thank you very much.